So my name is Jawaria Tanvir, and like Amy said, I do work here at Chorley Girls. And I thought I would start off by just describing my kind of academic journey and how I got here. So Asma or Amy, can you just confirm you can see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So I was actually a student at Chorley High School for Girls back in around 2008, but I was only here for 1 year. So I was only here when I was in year 7. I then moved to Abu Dhabi, Cambridge High School, and I completed my GCSEs over there. So year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11, I did in Abu Dhabi, which was really nice, really good weather, not like the rain we're having today. So loved that experience so much. I then did come back to Luton, and I actually went to Luton Sixth Form College. And I know some of you guys here today are from Luton Sixth Form College. And I studied biology, physics, chemistry and maths. So this was back when you do 4 subjects in your first year and you drop 1. So I dropped maths and I carried on with the 3 sciences. I actually took a gap year after college. So after college, I took a gap year. So I left college in 2015. So 2015 to 2016 was my gap year. And during that gap year, I actually started working at Luton Sixth Form College as an AIM. And if you go to the college, you would know what an AIM is. But for those of you that are not sure, what an AIM is, someone who supports students in their academic studies. So with my background in the A-level sciences, I was working with A-level science students and helping to support them and help to boost their grades and help to focus on areas that they're struggling with. So that was a really great experience for me, and I really did enjoy my gap year. The reason why I took a gap year initially was because I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do at university, but I did know I did want to go to uni, so it also kind of bided me some time to think. I did work with Umar at Luton Sixth Form College as well, and Umar would be the next speaker, so I did get a chance to meet with a lot of really great people who now work in lots of different high schools around Luton, so it's really good for networking as well. I then went to University of Birmingham. So I started University of Birmingham in 2016, and I studied chemical engineering. And the reason I chose chemical engineering is because it really tied in with my academic interests, which were physics and chemistry mainly, with that element of maths, and chemical engineering is a degree which does tie all of those 3 subjects together. Very academically stimulating, very hard degree, but I'm glad I've got through it. But it was around, I would say, in the second year of uni, I realised I don't really want to go down the industry route. I don't want to work in Chem-Eng. And when I had time off uni, summer holidays or Easter holidays, I would come back to Luton, and I would just end up working at Luton Sixth Form College, just any kind of role that was available. So science AIM I did in my gap year, but when I came back to the college over my holidays, I did work with some GCSE math students who were retaking their GCSEs. I did some work with IT, so working with the IT infrastructure team, and a lot of different roles. So it really helped me to develop a lot of different skills and kind of see a range of roles that do exist in one education environment. But I really realised that I do enjoy working with young people during that experience. And so I did realise, actually, I do want to go into teaching. So after uni, I did my PGCE with Shilton Training Group. And this is something I actually completed last year. So last year, I was doing my teacher training with Shilton Training Group. And some of you may have heard of this organisation already. It is a local organisation in our town, and it's a very intense year. I'm not going to lie, the training year is super intense, but it really helped to prepare me for my teaching role now. So now I am back at Chorley High School for Girls, and I'm kind of back where I initially started, but that training year, it really has helped to prepare me for my teaching role right now. There are different routes that you can actually take to get into teaching. So I did the 1-year PGCE route after my degree. Some people might go to uni and study for 3-4 years and do it that way to get into teaching, where you kind of have more time. One of my friends who I worked with at the college as well, she university to study law, but she ended up dropping out because she didn't enjoy it, and she didn't actually complete her undergraduate studies, so she didn't get a degree. So she carried on working at the college, But she decided she wanted to gain her formal teaching qualifications. And so she rang up the University of Bedfordshire and she said, this is my situation, these are my circumstances. I don't have a degree, but I've been working at the college for this many years doing this role. What are my options? And they said, right, well, this is the best route for you. So it's not necessary that you have to actually have an undergraduate degree to pursue a career in teaching. There are different routes that you can take. So it's about finding out what are your circumstances, what are your situations, and explaining that to people who are in that organisation so they can choose the best route for you. And she now is actually working at Al Hikmah with Asma as well. So she is working alongside completing her teacher training as well. One of the questions that, people might ask is, okay, so you studied chemical engineering, why did you go into teaching? And I kind of touched on it before, is I like working with young people, and I knew I wanted a career where I have that interaction with people. And in industry, in chemical engineering industries, you don't always get people interaction very much. But I also knew I wanted to do something that allows me to explore my other interests. So I do enjoy a range of things to kind of keep me busy and keep me occupied. I sometimes can get quite bored. I don't like doing the same thing over and over. And I think teaching is one of those jobs where you definitely will not have 2 days that are the same. And I'm sure Asma and Umar can speak more about that since they've been longer in the career. But it allows me to kind of explore working with young people. It's not just in the classroom, but outside the classroom as well. So what I've got here is just some examples of things that I do with outside the classroom, but teaching kind of allows me to explore those different options as well. So I do some hosting on Inspire FM on the Feature Show, and that is one of the shows we did early on this year, back in October, Careers in Teaching. So if you are interested in teaching, you can always listen back to that show, which is on YouTube, to kind of hear from a trainee teacher and head teacher, and Rachel, who works at Shilton Training Group, or worked at Shilton Training Group, and Sarah, who works with me here at Chorley Girls. But that's something that I do enjoy doing, and it's something that does tie in with my role as a teacher, because it focuses on schools and community projects and working with students and teachers and parents and getting them on. I do also have 2 more pictures, and that was from the Peace Garden Initiative, which Amy was at as well. And we actually took some Chorley girls with us over half term to just help plant some trees, a tree in aid for everyone who lost their life during COVID. So it's about projects like these which are of interest to me, that I think teaching allows me to do as well, and it allows me to just explore those different interests. I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually see you guys. Yes, that is me. Are there any questions from anyone? I don't know if I can see the chat option.
Yeah, we've got someone typing. 1 second, and I will read them out to you. So the first question is, how did you find studying abroad? And the second question is, do you have to do a placement with your PGCE?
Okay, so question 1, studying abroad was such a great experience for me. So that was because of my parents' jobs, which is why we ended up moving abroad. I've actually been moving abroad from a young age. So I lived in Saudi for a bit, where I was actually homeschooled. I was in Yorkshire for a bit, where I had a northern accent, which I don't have anymore. Big accomplishment for me was not picking up the Birmingham accent when I was at uni for 4 years, so that's good. But studying abroad, honestly, it's just so nice to get out of this town. Sometimes in a bubble in Luton, and I think it's so important to just see what exists outside of Luton. And studying abroad really helped me to just meet people who are from different countries and different backgrounds, and it really helped me, I think, to become more mature as well. And yes, I did have to do a placement with my PGCE, so I did my training with Shilton Training Group last year. And the way they are structured is you do your first placement in one school and a second placement in another school, and then you either come back to your first placement or you stay at your second placement. So I did my first placement last year at Chorley Girls, which is where I'm working now. And it's great because it allowed me to get that insight into the school and realise, actually, I do like this environment and I do see myself working here. And I was also at Chalk Hills. Chalk Hills was interesting because that was when it was lockdown. So a lot of that was actually online and we were doing Microsoft Teams teaching, but I did have 3 weeks in person there, which I'm really glad because it allowed me to get that insight in Chalk Hills as well.
Brilliant. I can see that Sahel has got his hand up. If you want to ask a question, you can, but please don't put your camera on. Okay.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, my question obviously is to Jawera as she's speaking. So obviously you've mentioned that you studied abroad. And what I wanted to know was, what difference do you find from the way you were taught in Abu Dhabi to how you teach right now?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Do you know what? To be honest, I think teaching is universal. I think there's a lot of similarities with where you teach. And I don't think location is a factor which determines the type of teacher you are, your teaching style. I think there certainly are experiences that help shape your teaching, but I think that just comes down to you experimenting with different styles and seeing what works best for you. Oh, sorry, that's just
Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, the weather outside is not great today, so we will be implementing a wet lunch. Please make your way straight to your film rooms after this lesson, and we will call you down for lunch in the usual way. GC staff, make your way to your designated guillotine areas, please. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. I think teaching is universal, and I think that it doesn't matter where you teach. I think it just comes down to you finding out what your own style is. The way I was taught, I had brilliant teachers in Abu Dhabi, and I was lucky for that experience. I do think I do take some of that in my teaching right now, but I think it's universal.
Brilliant. Do we have
Thank
any
you.
more questions? I've got none in the chat. Okay, so now I will pass you guys on to Umar Farouk from Puttridge High School. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us all about you. We can't.
You're muted,
Yeah.
Umar.
Good afternoon, everyone. I knew there was going to be some technical issues along the way. I'm just going to share my desktop, and please let me know if you can view. Mine is more notes. It's not necessarily aesthetically pleasing like what Jawera has created. Can everyone see a presentation on there? Why education? No?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, you can see it. All right. So I'll tell you a bit about me and how it started. And again, these are just purely my notes, so don't read too much into it. I grew up in Bury Park, and as you guys know, an area that is affected by, poverty, crime, etc. And as a young person, I was very unsure about, my futures, and I didn't really maximize potential. Maybe it's just being a young man at the time. And then I went on to study at Denby High School and then Luton Sixth Form College. Along the way, the first person that I met actually was Mr. Chowdhury in Denby, and he was our maths teacher, Set 1 maths teacher. And the reason why I found him so inspirational was because I think I could resonate with that individual because he looked someone like myself, and I thought, okay, education could be an industry that I could go into. However, it was more about when I went to Luton Sixth Form College, and I met an individual called Sufyan Sadiq, who taught me for 2 years business studies, both AS and A-level, and someone that was, again, very inspirational, was more like a role model and a big brother, showed us, this is what is right and what is wrong. Along with, Shazam, who came on later on, and obviously that's Sister Asma's husband, who again is one of, someone that I look up to as a role model within education, has really shaped my life as well. And I wrote 2 people, and the reason behind that was after I did my degree, in between that time, I was doing a lot of volunteering. So I was volunteering from Italy, summer school, I was doing some work for CYCD, Muggsy has given his name away now, Muggsy Coyes, and he has his own organisation with Diverse FM, where they work with young people who are out of education, and sometimes it's because they've been impacted by, again, poverty, crime, or whatever it might have been. And he told me, look, you've got to mentor these people, coach these young people, and get them back into education. And I found that so rewarding. And that was just at a pivotal time in my life, because I had just started my degree, and I was doing a marketing degree, and I was like, oh, this is great. I can see myself, making money. But however, it wasn't the be all and end all. Money wasn't my sole objective. I thought, how about if I do something that adds value, like I did when I did my volunteering with people like Muggsy. And then, there was wise wisdoms of people like, Sufyan and Shazam, where they were like, you want to do something where you go into a job and you can make a difference every single day. So after I did my marketing degree, and being, the typical boy or Asian or whatever you want to say, I applied for PGC at UCL, and it was kind of, by luck. And as a person of faith, we do believe that everything is by the decree of God. But I applied, and it was literally a last-minute application, and I was the last person on the course with 2 weeks to go. And bearing in mind, some of my friends had applied 6-9 months earlier, and it hadn't worked out for them. But it was just, I think, destiny, and it was meant to be. And then in my first year, while I was training, I taught in Croydon College, and Croydon College was really tough. And it was one of those places. I've just got students at the door, so I've just got to tell them they've got to go away. I'm in a meeting. So at Croydon College, the first day I went there, it was boarded off by police. There was a stabbing outside, and being a 21-year-old, relatively freshly faced young person, I'd gone in and I didn't know what to expect. But it's borderline Brixton, Peckham, and there was a lot of crime, and there was gang wars, and I learned a lot there. And behaviour management, which is now what I like to think one of my strong suits. I put that in practice, embedded it, and then really specialised in it, and then have now brought that forward to then sixth form college, which is where I taught as soon as I finished my PGCE. So I was 22. I went back into, I had my interview at sixth form, and there was Sufyan Sadiq, Shazam Mahmood, and Sufyan was actually my line manager, so it felt like I was a student again, and I was 22 years old, and I stayed there for 4 years. And that's probably like how it all started, and probably the 4 years that went really well. I learned a lot, but at the same time, I don't think I challenged myself as much, which is when I then applied for this job at Partridge High School, and it was actually being a head of department. So when I started off, the department was completely failing. We had about 9% of learners passing, and a lot of the students that were there, and it's probably the worst in the whole country, they had a lot of resentment towards the topic or the subject itself. And it was about myself then having that maybe endearing personality or trying to motivate and uplift them. And by 4 years later, we've now got 88% of our learners that pass with a 9 to 4. So we've kind of really revamped the subject, and now it's the second highest performing subject in the whole school. So that was one of the things that I would say that I do take great pride in, improving the results, changing the outcomes of a department. And as time has gone on here at Partridge High School, I've changed my roles many a time. I'm still the head of department, but I've been, at the moment, I'm quality nominee. I'm also staff governor. I subject lead all business studies heads of departments across the trust. And most importantly, I'm an association head teacher, and I'm in charge of Key Stage 4 outcomes. And that basically involves me ensuring that all Year 11s are achieving their target grade and above. So one of the things that I do, I'll set intervention after school. I'll review data. A lot of my job is about number crunching, then picking or focusing on students that require further support, whether that's after school, lunchtime. It might mean that they need us to buy revision guides for them. We try to set up mentoring. So some of those mentors coming from the community, others are within the school, parental engagement. And sometimes that can be quite tough, which is what I'm going to go on to mention in my next slide. And just in overall reviewing each department at a time, and that's one of my roles as well, where I go into departments and see what their strengths are, and then if there are any improvements or gaps, we address them, and then we try and put interventions and practices in place that supports that particular department. So that's my role as head teacher. And the last thing that I would mention is one of the things that I'm focusing on now. One of my projects is character education. So how we can, and it's an Ofsted requirement about how we can build character into our learners. And one of the things that I've been doing most recently is maybe perhaps improving my own character, but learning a lot about patience, and it's the sport that I've taken up. And my coach is actually on the call, and I'm doing archery at the moment. So building character is a big thing for myself and within the school about, how we can help the community, if it's litter picking, raising money for food bank, and all, planting the tree, as Jaweria mentioned earlier, etc. There's many things that we can do for our learners to build character. That's something I'm taking a lead on within the school at the moment. That's what I'm doing basically at the moment. I know I've said quite a lot and I've kind of whizzed through it. I would like to mention challenges. I think it's one of those jobs that, as rewarding as it is, and my friends are always taking the mickey, you've got a holiday in a week or 2 weeks. The holidays are absolutely amazing. I will never negate that. However, I would say that I'm in here probably about 8 o'clock every single day, and I leave at 6 o'clock. So I would say it consumes about 11 hours of my day. And so that's 10 hours actually, if you do the maths. And I would say another hour when I go home, emails, maybe calling parents or lesson planning for the following day. But I think the most important thing is that it's a rewarding profession. When you go into, the Arndale, there's a great sense of pride when a young man or a young woman stops you and says, "Sir, I'm now an engineer, I'm a pilot, I'm doing X, Y, Z, I'm practicing law, and I remember when you helped complete my university application, etc." So those are the moments that, you feel like it's really worth it. So I would say definitely the most rewarding profession out there. And I think some of the challenges that I face, I would say within the current demographics or the current the geographical location of where Puttridge is, you've got a huge disparity in terms of learners, their backgrounds and financial capacity, etc. So you have parents that are not very supportive, and then you've got the complete opposite spectrum where parents are hugely supportive. And ultimately, some parents, I've worked at sixth form where the parents are predominantly of Asian heritage and the parents are very supportive, whereas that might not be the case. And there's a lot more challenging conversations, something I'm dealing with myself. And again, I'm learning as well on the job, maximizing potential of staff and dealing with staff issues. And what I would say here is that the further you go up in terms of, as I started off as a teacher in sixth form, head of department at Puttridge, and now obviously a senior leader within the school, I would say one of the difficulties is actually getting staff motivated and getting them through their job, efficiently and essentially maximizing their potential and doing the best that they can. And again, there's a number of issues staff have every day, and it's just the profession that we're in, and you never know what's going to happen. With teaching, and I guess that's one of the perks of the job. No day is the same, no 2 days are the same, nor is it boring. Admin, a lot of marking, phone calls, emails, etc. And for me, especially being on the senior leadership team at Puttridge High School, being the only person of colour and being a person of faith, I think for myself, there's a number of challenges that I face every day about, I feel like I am their go-to person or maybe the person that depicts faith or colour to them. So that's why a lot of the times I have to be very cautious with what I say and the way I go about and do things. And sometimes there's a lot of burden, a lot of pressure being that individual. But at the same time, I feel like because of what I know, I've then cascaded that knowledge down, and a lot of people have learned from that and know a lot more about whether it's my culture, my faith, my background, etc. So that can be a burden, but at the same time, it's been very liberating as well, being the only person of colour within the senior leadership team. In the future, for myself, head teacher, I've wrote question marks. I would like to say I would never want to be a head teacher, probably because I feel like there's... I feel like when you the word head teacher, it's got teacher in it, but actually a head teacher no longer teaches anymore. And I think for me, the most important thing is having those meaningful conversations in class, being able to support learners that require the support. And I think that's the most meaningful part about the job. When you become a head teacher, it's more about PR and being front of house, dealing with issues and firefighting every day. and that's not necessarily what I would like to do. But who knows? Maybe a deputy head teacher. But again, I wouldn't want to kind of say this is, you know, the be all and end all. And maybe I would like to do something away from education. As I said earlier, I've done a marketing degree. I have run my own business on the side, and maybe doing something business related. But at the same time, I know I say that, and I say that to my wife all the time, but really, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think this is a job for life. It's my 10th year now, and I don't see myself actually going. These are all things that I'm dreaming about, okay? And no matter, I think fundamentally, and for everyone that's listening, no matter what you do, I think it's about the job that you have to do, something that adds value or something that, you know, brings value to yourself. One or the other, you're adding value to someone else's life, or you're adding value to yourself. And I do believe that, you know, it's not always about money, and it shouldn't be the intention of money. But I think for teaching especially, and you know, for all of us on the call today, or that are delivering these kind of masterclasses, I feel our intentions are the impact that we'll have on the generations to come, and hopefully that will be everlasting, because that can be passed down for generations to come. And that's me in a nutshell. Again, I'm happy to answer the questions.
Oh, is my mic working? No. Oh, my mic's working. No, it's not. I feel like I'm having one of those technical difficulties. Any questions? Okay, we've got Sahel. Again, take to the platform.
Thank you once again, Amy. So, Umar's supposed to be my friend, and I'm just surprised that I forgot that he actually worked at Croydon College, which is very, very interesting, because as Umar said, South London, very, very rough area. So first of all, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when Umar was teaching in Croydon College, because I wonder how a big softie like him would have done at Croydon College. Okay, my question to Umar is you've got a substantial amount of years in education. Now, what I want you to know is, in all your years of teaching, what's the biggest lesson you've learned?
I think for me, especially starting in this role, I would say patience and knowing how to differentiate. And I know that topic is something that all teachers use, differentiating in lessons, but I think really knowing your learners, spending time to get to know them. And I find that, especially in the school that I'm in now, a lot of our learners come from broken homes, and there's so many ongoing issues going on within their own lives. And it's about getting to know each student, and then perhaps placing certain, or having the right conversations, or placing the right support for that individual. So I think that's probably been the thing that I've learned, especially over the last few years, about every learner is different, every learner is unique, and then how do we then cater and then specialize or facilitate for each learner. I think that's been the biggest thing for me. And in regards to your comment about being a big softie, Sahel, I wasn't a big softie when I had to be there. It was very, very challenging, but I think I learned a lot there, and that kind of changed the way that I am now in terms of my own demeanor and approach. But it was definitely a big learning curve that year.
Amy, can I ask a bonus question again?
Of course.
Okay, his last slide, Umar, your last slide was phenomenal. It highlights the true meaning of what you want to do before you teach, your intention. And it is ultimately about supporting others and valuing and adding value to their life. And that is something that, when you look at that and you look to sharpen your skills in teaching, impacting and bringing value to someone's life, then money is just secondary. And you'll always benefit no matter where you go. And I love that. And I think that it highlights what I'm going to say about yourself right now, is that it's not about teaching first and foremost. It's about being a good human being. And I think that's what Umar is, mashallah.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair. Very kind of you, sir.
Thank you.
I do have some questions in the chat. So the first one you briefly touched on. It says, do you feel your experiences have helped you become the teacher you are now, for example, in Croydon? The second question is, do you find having a lot of roles and responsibilities can be a lot of pressure? And if so, how do you manage it all?
First question about experiences. I think Croydon College, along with sixth form, and I think Puttridge is actually where I've learned the most, if I'm completely honest. And I think and I think what I mentioned earlier about Sahil, about differentiating and knowing each learner, is when I went into, in Croydon College, and firstly, from the offset, I experienced a lot of racism from my mentor. And for me, that was a personal learning curve. And how do I then respond to that? Where my mentor would just say, "Oh, Mohammed, can you come here and do this?" I was like, "My name's not Mohammed, my name's Umar." And it was things like that I felt like I had to grow as a person. I had to know how to tackle those conversations. And then, I was sent into a class and they said to me, "Oh, this is the toughest class. And we've looked on your CV. When you were 19, you were a security guard, so you'll be fine." So I was like, "Oh, wow." And I went in there and it wasn't as bad, because I think for those students, they've seen someone that looks like them and they can resonate with. And then it was just like speaking to certain individuals and saying, there was one young boy, he didn't come to school, or come to college for about 3 weeks. I said, "What had happened?" And he said, "The Brixton boys were out there to stab me." So, we then said, "Look, this is what we've got to do in the future if a situation like this arises. How do we support these young people rather than them having absences and missing out on vital education?" So I think, and there's another student that said, "I don't have any food, and that's why I haven't been coming to college. I've been actually looking for, trying to find ways to make money for food." And I think those kind of situations have definitely shaped me, because I no longer think in a one-dimensional way, in the sense that I don't have tunnel vision. I have to look at things from an objective point of view and look at each learning that there's 30 different personalities. How do I then, cater and facilitate for all 30 individuals? So I think definitely experiences have shaped you. And I think those experiences, you can't let them be a negative, even though at that time it might be like the worst thing that you're going through. I think you have to learn from it and look back and think, you know what? I've been through a tough situation. I've learned X, Y, Z, and now I've got to move forward. And that's what it's been like for me. And I think the second question was Ellie's question. Ellie's question was about, do you think it's possible someone that isn't planning on going to get into the education sector? I think definitely there are avenues to go into education. So it depends. You can go into behavior management. So, for example, I have a sibling that has recently joined the behavior team here. I also know people that have joined attendance, whether it's some people that do academic mentoring at sixth form. So there's many roles that you can go into within the education sector, even if you don't want to go in, you don't want to go to university. However, if you do want to become a teacher, you will need a degree or equivalent, and then obviously a QTS or something to demonstrate that you are a qualified teacher and you can teach for the class. But I would say definitely, if you are thinking of going into education, I would say 100% do explore whether that's behavior, whether you want to focus on attendance, whether you want to focus on any kind of specialism within the school. We've got counsellor jobs going. It could be IT, but there's so many different ways you can come into the education sector. But it's really about choosing which one matches with your strengths and your skill set. There's a second question. Sorry, I'm thinking of doing an apprenticeship. I'm worried with opportunities. I can't see the rest of it. As you would. I would say apprenticeships, and again, I'll ask Jaweria and Bajasma what they think. But I think in terms of apprenticeships, I would definitely say if I was to go back 10 years, I would say apprenticeships is probably definitely a work, especially if you're going to go down a specialism, whether that be IT, finance. Apprenticeships are the way forward, because one, you get a qualification, and number two, you get paid while you're doing it. But it's really down to you and your situation, the kind of person that you are. I always say to young people that if they can't wake up on time and they've got to go to a construction job or construction apprenticeship, then you're going to miss, your first few days, or you're going to miss time. And within the first week, you're going to lose that apprenticeship. And remember, there's like 100 people that apply for one apprenticeship. And if you've got that, you've got to really take advantage of it. But I would say apprenticeship's definitely worthwhile. But if you are going down a particular specialism, however, if it's more broad and generic, then I would say perhaps maybe college or think about getting some sort of work, maybe trying some sort of work experience. But definitely apprenticeships, I think. Now you can do a university degree with an apprenticeship and get paid while you're working. So and get a degree. So I think apprenticeships now are so versatile. I would advise, or I would say, look into it. But at the same time, keep your options open. But sorry, did anyone else want to answer that, or do they have anything they want to add to that apprenticeships?
I agree with what Umar just said. I think apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships are the way forward. I think university is a traditional model, But I think nowadays we are beginning to see there are alternative ways to get into something. Of course, if you want to, become a doctor, you'll have to go down that traditional route. But, like Umar said, if you're thinking about IT and that's an interest of yours, then go for an IT apprenticeship. And there's a lot of different options out there, but they are competitive. So do make the most of it, just like Umar said.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. I don't think I've got any more questions in the chat, so I will now pass you guys on to Asma Kasour from Al Hikmah.
Hi everyone, hope you're well. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to change it up slightly. I've seen 2 really good PowerPoint presentations. You're going to have to look at my face and listen to me today. So I thought just have a nice casual chat with everyone and just talk about what I'd like to talk about is, firstly, I'll start off with, my name's Asma Kasour and I work with Al Hikmah Girls School and I'm part of the senior leadership team. I'm also a health and social care teacher for Key Stage 4. How did I get to where I am today? So my journey was very different. I've taken many routes to get to the point I am today. And let me just discuss a little bit about this. So firstly, I finished my IT degree in the University of Bedfordshire, and this was, say, 14 years ago now. That kind of makes me feel really old. I finished my university degree, but midway in my university degree, I realized I'm not really enjoying my IT degree. And this was actually towards the end of the second year. And it was one of the decisions I had to make is, do I drop out or do I continue and then kind of see where, reassess what I want to do with myself? And so with the encouragement and motivation of my mother, she said, look, there's no way you're leaving a degree midway now. Finish it and let's see, what's going to happen next year, and we'll reassess and we'll give you support you in whatever decision you make. I remember at this time, towards the end of my second year, I wasn't motivated enough to finish this degree. So I took on some part-time evening courses just to kind of refocus and see what other areas I can explore and look into that I'm going to enjoy. And I took on a floristry course, which was running at Barnsley College at the time, alongside doing my degree at the University of Beds. This was, I think it was, if I can remember correctly, 2 times a week, I think Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. And the sessions used to run for about 3 hours. Now, the first time I entered this class, I was, in a class of 30 other,
Oh, you're mute. Asma, you've muted.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. So, turning up to this floristry course, I've turned up with, 30 students aged between 30 to 50. And they were rather surprised seeing an 18-year-old turn up to, learn about flowers and how to arrange flowers. But this was one of the key things that kind of kept me motivated in carrying on with my IT degree, because I was still at the same time exploring different subjects that I may enjoy and take forward. Come to the third year of my degree, I've completed my degree, and now I've decided that I'm going to now start this journey of finding what I'm interested in and kind of enrolling onto courses that I'm interested in, and hopefully looking at a way to get back to maybe the IT field, or find different ways of finding something that I'm interested in, rather than doing it for the sake of, I've done a 3-year IT degree, I'm going to get a job in IT. Because personally, I feel if you're not enjoying the place of work, you're not going to be motivated every morning to wake up and get to work, and you're not going to have a huge positive impact in the environment you're working in. So moving on, what I did was, I just left the IT degree to one side, and I opened up my own floristry business from home. So I spent time designing bespoke wedding flowers for customers, working in the comfort of my own home, and they were happy days. I was enjoying myself. I had a lot of time, meeting different people, meeting brides, and just kind of really finding that happy place where I'm making a difference to someone. And this will be making a difference to people's big day when they're getting married. I also started then, looking at different occasions, setting up wedding venues and so forth. And this was a really enjoyable time in my life. I really did enjoy this. However, I think, you know, when it comes to finding, you know, what you want to pursue a career in, I kind of kept myself engaged and busy in enrolling onto different courses such as ESOL, TEFL. I got some voluntary work in community centres where I was delivering ESOL classes to females on the weekends. I also even delivered some floristry workshops in different community centres. Alongside this, I had a few opportunities to do some voluntary TA work in Foxdale Primary School and Al Hikmah Girls School. So this kind of brings my journey up to the last 8 years. 8 years ago, I was offered the opportunity to do some support work at Al Hikmah Girls School. During this time, doing all of these short courses and then coming to Al Hikmah Girls School, one thing was for sure, I was actually enjoying working with different people, and especially young people, and teaching them. The satisfaction that I started getting when I was coming home, and that feeling of feeling fulfilled, that I'm doing something that's going to make a difference, was really enlightening, and I really started enjoying this. So I continued working. I actually got offered a job at Al Hikmah Girls School, and I was able to work part-time. One thing I may have missed is I also did a part-time course in health and social care. And I think that was my turning point. When I studied health and social care, I realized, actually, I don't need to, become an IT teacher if I want to get into teaching. I can actually now enroll onto a different course and study a subject that I have interest in, that I will be passionate about delivering and wanting to make a difference to young people. So working at Al Hikmah was really refreshing. You're working with young girls that were of mixed abilities, and you were able to also, for me, it was a time to professionally develop as well, because I'm catering for different learning abilities. I'm, going home, creating lesson plans. And I think 3 years down the line, I realized actually teaching is for me, and I am really enjoying coming home. And that satisfaction that I feel when I come home is that, I would like to do this as a long-term career. So I did also, like Javeria mentioned, CTG. I actually took a completely different route with CTG because I had the degree, I've done all of these courses, and I've kind of taken a break to kind of, give myself time to think about what do I want to do going forward. Then I was offered the option of assessment only route for CTG, so I could do a QTS, which meant, yes, I have teaching experience. I had 8 years of teaching experience at Al Hikmah Girls School, and I was able to also now get my qualified teaching status, which took place. And that was absolutely brilliant, because that kind of, made it real for me that this is it. This is what I've been doing for the last 8 years. I've enjoyed it, and I'm going to continue this. I now have the opportunity to work, full-time. I used to work part-time. I'm working full-time at Al Hikmah Girls School. Absolutely brilliant school to work with. The students are amazing. But then I also have where I've been involved in so many community projects, I can now bring that experience to the school. So I do work with external agencies such as Luton Food Bank, Inspire FM, Boxing Saves Lives. We've been in touch with a lot of different range of external agencies, and we're able to bring them to our school and give our students the experience they need to, be a part of that wider community. So in terms of my journey, yes, we went from a degree to in between, I'm not too sure what I'm doing with my life, to then finding that pathway that brought me back to education. And I realized teaching is for me, and I would like to continue this. Absolutely love teaching. It does come with a package of being exhausted, doing lesson plans, having Zoom meetings at, in the evenings, it will be lastminute.com. Someone's going to say, okay, we've got urgent meeting, and you have to kind of reschedule your whole evening to kind of support the needs of the school as well as your home needs. Would I change it in any way? No, I absolutely love it. And I do find that it does work really well with me as an individual and personally, I enjoy staying productive. And then I think the main thing here is you're not only going to work and teaching, you're actually having an impact and making a difference to young people's lives. And that's a really important point. Does it come with challenges? Absolutely. In the journey of becoming a teacher, I also have a family. Mashallah, I have 3 young children who I absolutely love, and I get to test out all of my, inspection days on them, from cleaning their bedrooms to saying, right guys, we're having a mini mock today, we're going to check have you done your chores on time, and how well are you organized with your skills of waking up with that mom waking you up. So it does come with its joys. Having such a hectic and busy schedule, being a full-time mom, and also being a full-time teacher, you have to have a schedule. If you don't have a schedule, you will find yourself overwhelmed or stressed. But I feel like when that schedule is there, it's almost like a mental tick box approach. Okay, I've got to do this. Now I need to switch off from teacher mode, and I need to come home and, be turn into mom mode, or, give myself time. And, you make sure that you're giving everyone who is important to you the time that is necessary. So when you do think about a career in teaching, it's easy for me to say it's amazing and I absolutely love it, but the journey is going to teach you that it's going to develop you in many ways. You must stay patient, you must stay focused, and you must be interested and passionate about why you are doing what you're doing. If you are passionate about what you're doing and you enjoy teaching and making that difference, then you will always stay positive. Even on an exhausted morning, you may not feel like getting up, but that mindset that you're going to go into work today and it's going to be a different day, it's not going to be like yesterday, and you're going to make a difference to someone's life, that I think is, that satisfaction is absolutely amazing. I kind of think like I'm kind of going on, so if there's any questions, do ask and I can answer them as we go along.
Oh, do we have any questions? Let me just look in the chat. Yep, Sahel has a question.
Yes, Sahel.
Hi Asma, how are you? You okay?
I'm good, how are you?
All good, thank you. Asma, so you've mentioned obviously you're working at Al Hikmah Girls School now.
Yes.
I wanted to know what's your biggest challenge so far been, and how have you tackled it? Also, before you answer that, I want to say you've mentioned so much about yourself, but why have you not mentioned that you've got all the recipes? Tell them.
I think Sohail is probably going to enlighten you about my recipes, but that does come in my journey of my free time that I like to use in my passion to cooking. And I'm sure Sohail's be happy to share some of those likes that he's been doing on my Instagram following. In terms of the challenges at Al Hikmah Girls School, I mean, with every school, I think I'm sure Umar and Javeria will tell you that it comes with a set of challenges. The challenges I found is obviously working in private school is a little bit different to working in other schools. So everything comes with, it's not available there. So if you have an idea or initiative, it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of preparation to get to the point that you want to. And sometimes there are delays and you're working towards a project. But once that's executed, then there's a lot of joy in seeing the success of the project that takes place in our schools. Another challenge is when you're working at all-girls school, it comes with, there's a lot of time you need to give students, because I feel like sometimes when it comes to, especially I work in a Muslim school, being a Muslim female myself, you almost, it kind of feels like family. You can relate to the girls because of your religious backgrounds, your cultural background. So you do kind of spend a lot of time kind of having that kind of bond and relationship with them. However, the struggles are when you need to realize, okay, break time's over now, you need to move back to lessons and you need to kind of switch on to teacher mode, where you're still at a level where you can connect to them. However, it's really important that you get that development and that teaching across to them, that they've gone home understanding what you're teaching them for the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Asma? Anyone? I know I had one from the classroom, but I can't access it. Okay. I'll get that question from them, because I know that they did send one, but I think they got kicked out. So I will find out what the question were, and I will ping that across to you, because it could be a question for all of you, or it might just be for yourself. So once I find out, I'll send that over to you. Does anyone else have any more questions? No? Don't think so. Okay, well, thank you guys, all three of you, so much for giving us your time and for sharing all of your experiences and your knowledge. I know that it would have a massive impact on everyone who's attended today. And yeah, I just appreciate it. I know that I have gone over schedule, so I am sorry. But yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Amy, well done on bringing such a panel together. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.